Welcome to this explainer. Let's jump right in and decode something that drives so many of us absolutely crazy: the hidden psychology of chronic lateness. It's a topic that causes endless frustration, massive tension in relationships, and honestly, a ton of personal guilt. But today, we're throwing out the surface-level judgments. We're going to look at the actual science and the real psychology of what's literally going on inside the brain.
So, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like your brain sees time through a completely different, frankly frustrating lens compared to everyone else? Like you look at a clock, you know exactly what time you need to be somewhere, you make a solemn promise to yourself that, hey, today is gonna be different, and yet somehow you still end up running behind.
It's just this ultimate painful paradox, right? Because your intention is incredibly pure. You might actually be the person who starts getting ready 2 entire hours early. You lay out your clothes, you map out your route, but then reality hits. And suddenly you're frantically tearing through your house looking for your keys the exact second you were supposed to be walking out the door. It totally feels like a failure of willpower. But, as we're going to see, it's actually something much, much deeper.
Section 1. The Clockless Mind. Okay, so first things first, we need to completely shift the narrative away from character flaws. The chronically late mind, it isn't broken. It's not missing a gear. Instead, it's actually operating on a hidden, highly predictable set of rules that psychologists call your internal logic. This is a mechanism where your mind fundamentally prioritizes its own internal drives, its emotions, and its needs way over the rigid ticking hands of an external clock.
We really have to dismantle the whole myth right here. Because society absolutely loves to label this, don't they? The immediate assumption is that if you're late, well, you're just lazy, you're inherently disorganized, or worst of all, you just don't care about other people's time. But the reality, at least according to psychology, is vastly different. You aren't disrespecting anyone. Your brain is actually just obediently following its own internal logic. Which brings us to a really fascinating condition known as time blindness. And hey, if you experience this, your reality is completely validated by science. Time blindness is just a totally different way of processing the world. See, your mind is driven by your internal state and the potential of a moment rather than a rigid mathematical schedule. For you, time isn't a straight, predictable line. It's more like a flexible, shifting space.
Section 2. The search for autonomy.
Now, what really reveals our true subconscious motivations here is that for a lot of people who struggle with lateness, the behavior is actually a deep, ingrained resistance to imposed structure. Honestly, your brain just doesn't like being told what to do, even if it's just a harmless calendar invite telling you where to be. Lateness secretly becomes this hidden rebellion against rules and external expectations.
You see, in psychology, we find that some brains are powerfully guided by their own internal standards instead of strict external systems. If you're someone who deeply values autonomy and independence, a schedule doesn't actually feel like a helpful tool to you. It feels like a cage. It's often said that a strict appointment can literally feel like a loss of control. Subconsciously, arriving late is kind of a power play. You might resist the rule just to restore your sense of choice. Basically, you prefer to arrive on your own terms, restoring your autonomy, rather than feeling like you only succeeded because you blindly followed a rigid system.
Section 3. Optimism and dopamine traps. First up in this section is optimism bias. This is a cognitive glitch, and it's a big one, where your brain consistently underestimates how long a task will actually take. Why? Well, because it focuses entirely on the perfect, frictionless version of the scenario. Your brain completely ignores the messy realities of life. It just assumes every single traffic light will magically turn green, it completely forgets that you have to actually find parking, and it totally ignores the walk from your car to the building.
The internal monologue of a latecomer almost always sounds exactly like this. Oh, it only takes 10 minutes to drive there? Come on, we've all said it. Your brain just assumes the trip will be utterly flawless. It's exactly like how people who overthink success stay stuck in the planning phase. The dream feels perfect, just as long as they don't have to face the messy reality of actually doing the work.
And then, just as you're about to beat the odds and leave on time, you get hit with the one last thing syndrome. You know the feeling. It's that overwhelming, almost physical urge to fix a stray email or quickly tackle a pile of dishes in the sink right at the exact second you're walking out the door with your coat already on. Let's quickly walk through this cognitive loop because it is a massive trap. Step 1, you spot an unresolved issue, like that stray email. Step 2, because it stays active in your mind, it causes genuine internal discomfort. You feel like you can't just leave it. Step 3, you rush to fix it. And doing that provides this quick hit of dopamine and a quiet sense of relief.
But ultimately, you just lost 5 crucial minutes and made yourself late. Your brain basically craved that tiny achievement before transitioning to a new environment.
Section 4. Adrenaline and mental exhaustion.
Understanding the biological drivers of lateness is absolutely crucial here. We really have to talk about adrenaline reliance. For some people, their brains actually require the panic and the stress of a ticking clock to finally shift into problem-solving mode. Without that intense stress, the brain simply refuses to fire on all cylinders.
Compare these two states for a second. When life is too calm and predictable, this type of brain really struggles to focus or move. It just feels stagnant. But the second you are behind schedule, boom, you are in action mode. Just as some people strangely thrive in emergencies but struggle with mundane daily life, the chronically late literally use the intense pressure of being behind schedule as a biological tool to force their brain to take action.
But there is a dark side to this, and it's known as resistance to transition. Sometimes you spend so much energy overthinking deeply about every single step of your day, analyzing every possible outcome, that your mental energy is just completely drained. This constant mental exhaustion makes the simple physical act of leaving the house feel like a monumental, almost impossible hurdle. Your brain just isn't ready to make that transition.
Section 5. Bridging your two worlds. To bridge the gap between your mind and the clock, let's quickly recap the exact mechanics of your brain that we've unpacked today. First, optimism bias tricks you into believing every trip is flawless. Second, dopamine traps force you to do that one last thing. Third, adrenaline reliance means you literally need panic to start moving. Fourth, transition resistance makes leaving feel absolutely exhausting. And fifth, the search for control turns lateness into a subconscious power play.
Understanding these 5 patterns, it changes everything. The old view told you that you are broken, lazy, and disrespectful. But the new view proves that you are absolutely none of those things. You are simply prioritizing your own internal drives, like autonomy, sensory processing, and control, over external clocks. Once you recognize your lateness as a predictable cognitive loop, well, then you can finally start to bridge your internal world with the outside world.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question. You are no longer flying blind here. Now that you understand the hidden internal logic of your clockless mind, how will you choose to spend your time? Use this self-awareness to step out of that cognitive loop, master your daily schedule, and take true control of your day. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.